Marketing, and we're here today to discuss, of course, the City of Dallas planning and urban design, along with Dr. Eric Johnson. We'll discuss the Forward Dallas Neighborhood Summit that is coming up this Saturday.
Yeah.
Then he's also here. If you could mute yourself, please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And then also,
It's not working.
if you
Mine
could
is
mute
battery's
yourself,
dead. What do you want me to check?
if I can have you mute, please. Thank you so much. And then Dr. Johnson will also talk about Forward Dallas Comprehensive Land Use Plan. So after he has had a chance to talk and express some of his ideas here, then we will take questions from the media. And I do have a list so far of those that have checked in, and just let me know if once we've done our first rounds of questions, if I've missed anyone, let me know at that time, and we'll certainly give you the floor. And then if time permits, we'll do a second round of questions. It just depends on the time. So having said that, this is also being live streamed, so folks can watch this on our cable channel as well as on our website. So without further ado, I do want to introduce Dr. Eric Johnson, who is here to talk more about the summit that is coming up on Saturday, and also to talk more extensively about the Forward Dallas Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Dr. Johnson?
All right, thank you, Janella. We're excited to announce the launch of Forward Dallas on Saturday, August 28th, with the Forward Dallas Neighborhood Summit. Forward Dallas is created by neighborhoods and neighborhood stakeholder input, which will be important in the process. We will create a unified vision for the future land use, integrate existing planning work like Connect Dallas, outline specific goals, strategies, and actions, and establish priorities per the Forward Dallas update, inspire new plans and ordinances, and will reflect Dallas residents and stakeholder interests and needs. More importantly, this is totally aligned with the recently adopted economic development policy, May 26th of this year. As we embark upon this journey, we want to acknowledge that we heard the voices of neighborhood leaders and stakeholders about how we approach neighborhood-led plans. We are working on creating a pathway to welcome neighborhood-led plans as part of Dallas planning process. That is something we heard very clear, and it will be integral to what we do. Preparing a draft framework and adoption process, ultimately to take to the council related to neighborhood plans. Revisiting authorized hearings, prioritization criteria to be more inclusive of neighborhood-driven plans and environmental justice issues. Let me stress that we are truly listening and taking action. We want to work with neighborhoods to seek input into how we design this process and best plan at all planning scales for the future of Dallas. This is like really important. I need to state that because the opportunity for American cities in general, it usually comes along every 10 years when you update your comprehensive plan. So this is really an awesome opportunity to really help set the direction in terms of the future. Land use, we're going to be looking at everything across the board. But more importantly, neighborhood planning will be integral to what we do and how we basically go forward. So I just want to close with that, and we can take any questions.
Can I ask what's different about what you just said in terms of incorporating neighborhood-led plans that is different than what was presented earlier this year about
Would you
what happened going forward?
introduce yourself so we know which media outlet?
Sorry, of course. I'm Carrie Mitchell with Dallas Free Press.
Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, so let me start out by saying thank you for that question. I'll say this is what's really, really different. We do not have the position that neighborhood plans are not important. And what we're really communicating is it will be integral to the process. And it's okay for neighborhoods to start to plan and think about their future. So I don't really know about how it was so discussed in the past, but I can tell you that going forward, that is how we are basically looking at this. So I'm going to ask Julia Ryan, Director of Planning, to chime in if she has any additional comments to that question.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. So we are looking at how we can better integrate the neighborhood planning into the Forward Dallas and citywide planning land use policy. And the way that we're looking at this is to basically streamline the authorized hearing process so that neighborhood-driven plans can be part of that process in a more strategic and efficient way. And so over the next month or two, we're actually putting together some draft framework that we can share with the council and the public about how we plan to do that.
Okay, thank you so much. Robin Jimenez of the Dallas Examiner, do you have a question?
No, I'm just here to take snapshots. Xavier,
Okay.
Xavier is here to ask questions.
Okay, Diane, Xavier? Not able to hear you.
Hear me
Diane.
now?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I couldn't hear. So, not right now. No questions right now. But,
Okay, all right.
maybe further.
Mr. Blair, Daryl Blair with Elite News. Daryl? Do you have any questions? You're on mute, sir. Okay, I see that he's talking there. Alex Macon with D Magazine.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Johnson.
Morning.
Thanks y'all for this this presentation. It's very interesting to see this moving forward. And I missed the very beginning, so I apologize if this is redundant. But I did want to ask, with Pierre Chaco resigning and some of the other kind of recent turnover and shakeup in planning and zoning, you know, has that affected how this will move forward? How are y'all prepared to kind of move forward with the staff you have, and who will be, you know, meeting with neighborhood representatives just on a real face-to-face ground level going forward with the city?
Yeah, so let me respond to the question related to staff and Pierre. Pierre simply was set for retirement, and we didn't really have major shakeups in terms of zoning individuals retiring. Neva Dean simply retired from the city. The changes you see taking place in sustainable development is actually part of our realignment and getting ready to implement the city's economic development policy. Because what I want people to remember is to take that document very seriously, because we asked the council for a year transition to do cleanup work so that we are ready to execute on that policy when it launches in May of 2022. So everything we do, including the comprehensive plan to where we're looking at everything, actually goes totally back to that. So there's not like a big sort of state of chaos, anything like that going on. It is simply us just realigning our efforts to make sure come May 26, 2022, we are ready to implement that progressive economic development policy. And that's really what it's about.
All right, thank you. Stephen Monticelli with the Dallas Weekly. Do you have a question, Stephen? Okay. Alejandra Martinez with KERA. How about you, Alejandra? Do you have a question? Okay. And Mr. Daryl Blair with Elite News. Do you have a question, sir? Okay. Is there any media on the line that I failed to call on? All right. Let's go for a second round of questions. Is there anyone else that has a question that they'd like to ask Dr. Anderson? I'm sorry, Dr. Johnson? Okay. And Dr. Johnson, can you at least elaborate just a little bit about what residents can expect with the summit on Saturday, sir?
Yeah, what they can expect, and I'm going to ask Julia to jump in as well. What they can expect is really a discussion on our overall framework going forward. They can expect to hear from us how we're looking forward to engaging the neighborhoods in this process, because the foundation of what we're going to do is going to be totally based on that. And I think it's important to remember that process is really helping to set the city's future land use, zoning, everything that we're talking about, here's an opportunity for all of those issues to start to emerge so we can make the necessary adjustments to help guide the city over the next 10 years. Julia, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just mention that this is a really great opportunity for neighborhoods to learn about how Forward Dallas is going to move forward as we go through this process, but also some of the other plans that have been adopted in the past and how they specifically relate to land use and moving forward with the city.
Yep.
Hey, I see that Alex Macon with D Magazine has another question. Alex?
Thank you. Sorry to monopolize any of the time here. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the economic development plan, and Julia, you just spoke to some of the kind of past plans that Dallas has adopted related to zoning, related to land use. How do you go about making sure these plans don't contradict each other? How do you ensure that there's kind of that top level vision, making sure these plans don't get siloed off and isolated and sit on a shelf for 10 years? How are you making sure these all kind of coordinate and do work toward what you're overall trying to accomplish?
Yeah, you know what, Alex, that's a great question. So, in reference to the economic development policy, that is what we really attempted to do, to look at the various number of policies, plans out there and coalesce it into one document, but reference some of these plans as part of the tactics and strategies that's in the document. Because we're talking about decades and decades of plans that in many respects, some of these plans are good. But the question is, how do you align all of these plans towards an overall goal and objective? And when we look at the policy, you see 10 years worth of significant goals, objectives, metrics we're going to try to attempt to reach. So that's where the comprehensive plan comes into effect here. How do we look at the comprehensive plan in its alignment to the policy and in alignment with other plans that's out there? Julia, anything you want to add to that?
So each of those plans have specific metrics as part of them, and a lot of those metrics are directly related to land use and how land use interacts with some of these things. So, for example, the comprehensive environmental policy talks about different land uses that don't mix well, so residential, industrial. So this is how the comprehensive land use plan will look at those and see how do we address those specifically as it relates to environment or resilience or transportation. And so part of that is to work with an interdepartmental group to make sure that we're thoroughly integrating the types of policies that are important to land use into the future land use plan. So we also have a comprehensive land use committee that's it's a subcommittee of the City Plan Commission, and we'll be working with them throughout the process as the direct oversight body to be able to integrate the things that are important to both the residents, but also to the different plans that have been adopted. So there'll be that oversight review body.
See, we also have a question from Carrie Mitchell with the Dallas Free Press. Carrie?
My first question is fairly similar to Alex's in terms of Forward Dallas has been around for quite a while now. And are we still on the same path? Are there different iterations? I'm thinking through how to explain this to the average citizen who might be interested in zoning and the land around them and how that affects their property. But, it's probably not going to go through pages and pages of documents to try to figure out, what the comprehensive plans that have come before and what might be coming up now. How can we as media help relate what's happening with the city to people who care about their city and want to access, the plans that are going to be available to them? What is it going to look like on Saturday for them to be involved in that and ask questions about what the plans will be going forward and how those are different than what's already happened?
Yeah, so I'm going to take a crack at this, and I'll have Julia jump in. You really want to know what the difference is? Forward Dallas in the previous iterations. Well, first of all, let me say this. Every American city should update their comprehensive plan every 10 years. We're now into year 16, since 16 or year 17 before the last iteration of the plan. But here's the big difference that we want to be able to talk about. this is not going to be an aspirational document. Previous iteration, if you really study it, it's like aspirational. You feel good about this, you feel good about that. It's not getting into like tactics and strategies that we can measure against and bring items forward to the council, for example, and use a reference like, per the comprehensive plan update, here are some things we need to do and measure over time. So as we talk to residents, neighborhoods about the plan, we're going to be looking to capture that type of information to move away from aspirational to more sort of tactical in terms of strategies and things we can do over the course of the next 10 years. Julia, anything you want to add to that?
Yes, thanks. So for Saturday, we are looking to set the stage for neighborhoods with the Forward Dallas process. And so giving them specific ways to get involved as we move forward. So we'll have a lot of different and exciting things that we'll be getting out to the public with, obviously being safe with COVID. And so we're looking into some alternate ways that we can do that. But I think one of the major things that we're looking at is this idea of future land use. And future land use is really important for cities to be able to plan better. And so Dallas doesn't have a future land use plan that's detailed. And so what ends up happening is, you can get piecemeal plans and piecemeal zoning without really understanding the full picture of what we're doing. So we're really trying to be strategic about how we look at land use and how that land use, that future land use that we want is actually going to be translated into zoning. So we can get the neighborhoods more involved in the future land use process. And then as part of that, the zoning process. So I think that's going to be a real big change that I think will help streamline a lot of the processes in terms of authorized hearings and other things that we do to be able to actually get the things done that we want to get done.
So just in closing, it's about, implementation and connecting the dots, quite honestly.
You were saying just in closing, implementation and connecting the dots.
Absolutely.
Okay. We still have a little time. Is there anyone else that has a question for Ms. Ryan or Dr. Johnson? Anyone?
I've got one more if we've got time. My understanding is that the answer to this question will in part be the reason why you're having this meeting Saturday. But the city has trust issues regarding this plan with communities in Southern Dallas, especially around Floral Farms, and in West Dallas. So looking ahead to this meeting Saturday, what do you tell those people who are skeptical of this plan to make them trust you, to make them believe that you will seek their input and their involvement and let them have some autonomy in steering their neighborhood's future?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. That's a good question. And let me just say this. The issues of trust is something that we have to overcome. So what we're going to be asking, and that's why we're really communicating this today. We are not saying in no way, no way, shape, or form that neighborhood planning is not something that we are not going to support. What we're saying is we're going to support it. And to sort of listen to us, hold us accountable as we go down this road, because that's really where we're going. So that's really all I can say. And I think as we kick off on Saturday, they're going to hear more and more about the importance of neighborhood planning, neighborhood engagement in this process and beyond.
Okay. Is there anyone else that have questions for Julia Ryan or Dr. Johnson? All right. Well, having said that, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Also know that there will be a recording of this. You can locate it on our website and also on our YouTube channel as well. And so we look forward to the conversation with the residents, particularly for the Neighborhood Summit on this Saturday. So having said that, I want to thank all of the media that joined us today, and also Dr. Johnson and Julia Ryan and his entire staff. Again, we appreciate your time. And having said that, we are going to end this press conference. So Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Organically here, I think, for a city like Dallas especially.
You know, if you look at the old pictures of Elm Street from the 20s and 30s, there are several movie palaces up and down the street.
All along Elm Street was the Majestic and the Palace and the Melba and all these wonderful looking buildings.
The Majestic in Dallas is great keystone in this neighborhood. I mean, this was the foundation of the Interstate Amusement Company. Carl lived here, he worked here, his office was on the top floor.